Guys, I'm so sorry. Truly.
Okay, don't worry. I didn't do the classic Minecraft YouTuber move. I just claimed that I would fix all of the progression problems in Minecraft and explain them in a very, very poor way. If you didn't watch the previous video that this one is talking about, don't worry, don't watch it. This explains the idea much better and also is way more in-depth as well. So without further ado, let's dive into the crazy takes that got me to where we are now. Okay, so straight into the fire, I said that ores, caves, and structures will be removed from the overworld. This is a bold decision, I know, but I'm also certain that it's not only justifiable, but you're gonna really like it too. In the original video that I talked about this, well, I stated the crazy sounding decisions loud and clear and did not provide proper reasoning or context. Yes, ores will be removed from the overworld, but they get replaced with a mining dimension. And yes, structures will be removed too, but they get replaced with the handmade ones. If you're still not sold, then stay tuned, since these concepts are far more complex than a simple nether portal reskin that brings you to a cave world or just a desert temple revamp. So while we're looking for a place to start, let's just go ahead and talk about the reason for removing the structures is a simple explanation that I clearly didn't stress well enough. I'm removing the vanilla ones because they're boring and I'm putting in my own. I'm not actually removing structures, I'm just making them better. I'm taking this and making it this. That second clip is from a dungeon that will actually be in the server, and all of these dungeons will be super reminiscent of something like The Legend of Zelda. They will be fine-tuned to the progression needs of the given point in time you're intended to face them. So I will purposefully be slowing down the progression, but I'm also going to make it way more interesting. That dungeon I showed is purposefully designed around you having leather armor, and it brings you the next steps towards getting better gear. I actually have a whole video dedicated to how that dungeon plays out, so if it looks like fun, check it out in the top right corner. It should also be noted that even though all these structures have their own lore, this is not going to be a linear storyline where you just go from point A to point B. You can go anywhere at any time, do anything, however you like, whenever you like. I'm working hard to preserve what really makes Minecraft special, while also making its progression significantly less lackluster. There will be several dungeons for many different tiers of progression, meaning that you can complete all of them, some of them, or even none at all if you're somehow that goated. You especially aren't pointed directly towards the next dungeon and are instead given clues to where others may be via the story and names of landmarks. Where you go is up to you. This isn't going to be a run-of-the-mill I turned Minecraft into an RPG, and that's the last thing I want to do with it. I want it to feel more like Terraria, progression-wise, with it still being its own thing. You get to go out and discover the best places to get X resource, or what other factions are doing that are working, if you'd like to trade with them or sabotage them, where you get a given powerful ancient artifact, while also uncovering the secrets of the series of events that led to the downfall of the old world. Because as you know, as cool as trains are, railroads are boring, and I encourage you to derail the basic gameplay the best you can. So with the structures, I'm not sucking the fun out of the overworld, I'm taking what was there and replacing it with far new and improved structures that are actually engaging and interesting. They'll also reset and be protected by the server to make sure they're both not cheesable, but also renewable. This is super important to making sure that everyone has even playing grounds, and that no one is left empty-handed because they joined the server a week too late. It also means everyone gets to enjoy the expert craftsmanship by the build team to actually get the full experience. If I left these parts alone, then it would have the same problem as all other Minecraft servers. The player base consists primarily of those that joined in the server's infancy. Everything cool was done already. Adding more structures and more content and more everything is a super band-aid fix because it not only makes it more confusing for a new player, but might even make it harder for someone to join late because there's even more stuff that you need to do in order to compete with the other players. This is even worse when we're using a preset map, and one that's significantly smaller than that of a normal Minecraft world. I can't just be all willy-nilly with adding content. I need to be concise, thoughtful, and intelligent about what I do and don't add to the game. One poorly designed feature could ruin everything else, which is why I'm taking structures into my own hands and making them some of the most insane experiences you've ever seen. Sound pretty cool? Join the Discord then. You can playtest the ones in development, and if you would like to be part of the build team, we can get that arranged too. I can't wait to see you there. Maybe subscribe too. But this is hardly the end of the story. Those are just the structures. Next, we have the... This was the portion that most of you had problems with, so I'll tackle each one by one. First off is the biggest misconception, which is super my fault. When I say mining dimension, I'm not talking about a nether portal reskin that brings you to a world full of resources. The mining dimension is actually just implementation, and nothing in-game would actually suggest it's another dimension besides the loading screen. All I did for that portion of the video is explain how good of an idea the mining dimension is, but hardly touched on what it even is. The way you'll actually encounter this in-game is through various entrances sprinkled across the world, each placed strategically in biomes that reflect the difficulty of the contents of the given mine. The ore counts will be different in every mine, so in one you might have iron and copper, and in another it's just coal. The less valuable mines are in the less difficult biomes, with obviously lower difficulty overall as a result. These entrances are ancient mining facilities that plunge beneath the bedrock to bring you towards where all the precious resources are. You enter through a rickety, rusty express elevator to hell with the party you bring with you, praying that you make it out there with both the riches in the deep and your lives. When I said mining dimension, I wasn't explaining how I'm making this a prison server. I simply wrongfully presumed that everyone watching had prior knowledge of the absolutely insane experience every mining trip is meant to be. Once you're inside whatever cave you found yourself in, you'll notice that the only way back up is to meet a given requirement established by the long-lost creators of every facility. In one facility, perhaps it was a simple ore mining operation, and you can mine at your own pace knowing that the elevator will let you back up because, well, what else were you doing down there? Other mines won't be so forgiving though. Some mines were dragon egg collection facilities, and the elevator will only let you back up after you've secured one. Others are oil mines, where you have to build elaborate machinery to extract it and defend it from the wildlife. The possibilities are endless for the amazing adventures you could have in any given mine. It should also be noted that I'm not just using the default Minecraft caves. I'm going in and making my own custom generation, biomes, enemies, and more for every mine, making sure that everything is novel and fantastical. But now that you know what the actual plan is for it, well, I've yet to answer. Why am I doing this? Well, that answer is simple. It's because mining in the base game almost always defaults to strip mining one way or another, and strip mining is really boring. Caves are cool, but they run out fast, and then you're back to square one. It's kind of the same problem with the structures, where joining late puts you at a severe disadvantage because all of the fun stuff is gone. Even if I just made the base caves more interesting, they would still retain their expendability. If I just made ores somehow regenerate, not only would that be super exploitable, but going back into the same cave over and over isn't exactly novel or interesting. These mining dimensions can be as large as I like them to, and I can make it drop you in a random location inside to make sure that you're always experiencing fresh content. If push comes to shove, I can always straight up delete the chunk data for the given dimension, and there wouldn't be a single used area, making underground resources infinite and completely removing this issue. Considering these are also completely separate dimensions, since each mine is its own isolated bubble, I can do whatever I want with each one, really opening up my options for enemy and mission design. These enemies can break, move, and do whatever they like with blocks without fear of them ruining people's builds. This will make each encounter not only significantly less cheesable, but far more threatening and engaging without just making the enemies deal a ludicrous amount of damage, which is usually the go-to idea considering how powerful placing blocks is. Now, some of you might be saying, well, this sounds really cool, but why can't you just leave the ores and caves in the overworld and also have this? Well, even though going through my brand new mines will be way more fun than mining normally, this will bring up the biggest problem any game could have. Strip mining will be way more cost efficient than caving, meaning that the dimensions would be more fun, but you're shooting yourself in the foot if you don't just go through the dreaded grind. If the game that inspired this entire mining dimension concept, Deep Rock Galactic, taught me anything, it's that grind is the best thing a game can have, as long as it's fun. Literally all of Deep Rock is just one huge grind, and the people that play it often spend ages grinding it because it's just that fun. I need to make mining feel like that, and if I make the most efficient form of grinding really boring, then all that work I put into making all of these wonderful, fine-tuned, and fantastical mining dimensions goes straight down the drain. A boring meta is the worst thing I could implement, and I will do everything in my power to avoid it. It also makes it much harder to slow down progression properly if I let ores generate in the overworld. The base game makes it possible to get diamonds in mere minutes if you know what you're doing, and most modded Minecraft players definitely do. I need to slow this down a lot, and making getting to the next tier an actual test of your skill instead of it being dig as deep as you can. I won't make it a straight path to get to the next tier per se. You can still enter any of these mines whenever you like, but I'm not going to make it that easy to go directly to the best gear. If this sounds awesome, I stream the development of it, so check out my live streams and you can see all the new biomes, enemies, and gameplay mechanics I'm adding each day. It's 12 PM EST almost every day and runs for 4 to 6 hours usually. We're all super chill, so I'm sure you'll fit right in. If you want to play test it, we also have a test server you can join. Details are in the Discord in the description. The mod's not ready for playtesting at the time of recording, but I'm sure it will be either very close or in beta by the time you see this video. So join below and give it a spin. Although until then, we need to talk about... Due to these crazy changes, progression is obviously way different, and I didn't touch on it at all in my previous video, so I'll explain it now. As a brief overview, things are going to be very location, fuel, and skill based. What do I mean by any of that? Well, I'll explain, starting with skill. For the most part, you should be able to do almost anything should you just be goated with the sauce. Taking a page from Dark Souls' book, why wear that fancy armor if you don't plan on getting hit? Obviously, this isn't going to be the exact way it works, but I do want most things to be technically possible if you're good enough at the game. This means, like I said earlier, sure, you can go into the super dangerous cave filled with nunividium. Just know that you might be facing the unmatched power of the sun with whatever sticks you might have found along the way. If you can do it, then congratulations! Have your nunividium and a gold star, as long as you also got your hands on a diamond pickaxe, which will probably be the only real limitation. In reality, you probably should be properly getting the gear you need to survive, but technically, it's possible to survive otherwise. You'll have some bare bones limitations like the ones in the base game, but that'll be it. I'll obviously plan on you taking an expected route, but not making it impossible to go otherwise. Now, for what I mean by things being location-based, that is also fairly straightforward. I want this to have a ton of focus on adventure. I'm going to be making it so that various different types of resources are found in the different types of biomes, and tweaking progression accordingly. This means your early game materials are found in the early game biomes, precious gemstones are located in the colder biomes, and fuel is found in the hotter biomes, with the most potent and endgame fuel found in the ocean, which is getting a massive revamp that I will explain another day. However, I will go so far as to say I'm taking inspiration from real life in all of the worst ways for that one. This will at least give a general sense to the players of where they should probably be heading next, where they think a base would best be placed, and helps to encourage trade considering some factions will get certain resources easier than others. It also makes it so that in order to actually get somewhere progression-wise, you can't just get everything from one location, and you'll actually go out, explore, build infrastructure, and actually utilize the world around you. Now, for the fuel portion, well, this is where things get complicated. There is one huge problem with all games that have a focus on your progression. There's nothing to do at the top. It might not really be an issue for some, since, well, if you beat the game, you beat the game. But as you all know, there's no beating Minecraft, and I don't really want to change that. So for a long time, I was quite stuck considering that this problem is almost entirely fundamental with the type of gameplay I'm trying to make. And after a lot of brainstorming, I think I finally came up with something that might actually work. This required a unique take on progression that I don't believe I've actually ever seen before. If you have seen it, please tell me what it is so I can know what this looks like when executed properly or improperly, but it's the emphasis on fuel that I was talking about earlier. Progression isn't going to be a staircase. It's going to be an escalator going down. One that goes faster the higher up you are. All good things will cost fuel in some sense. The fuel cost to survive will be minimal, so if you just want to relax, build, and have fun, then there is hardly any challenge on your shoulders, and the escalator moves at a snail's pace. If you crave more power than that, however, that's a different story. Each piece of coal you burn smelting your iron and running your farms is another piece of coal you're not using to cook your food, heat your base, and so on. Progression is no longer a static point in time, but instead an uphill battle, making the gameplay actually infinite, whilst also using all of the faction relations, trade, and various powerful, one-of-a-kind, world-changing artifacts to spice things up. If you don't know what the artifacts are, check out the video in the top right corner and it will explain them to you. This is by far the most complex and conceptual system planned, and whether it's sustainable, possible, or even fun is yet to be seen. If you have any thoughts on it, feel free to share them, since every ounce of criticism, praise, or suggestions will be necessary for me to keep it enjoyable. If the system works, great, I keep it and go on as planned. If not, then out the window it goes, and I try something new. No matter which way you slice it, I rely on having 1,000 viewpoints in order to understand and tackle every problem this beloved game may have. So I call upon all of you to help me playtest and solve this game. Join my Discord, try out all my crazy ideas, and if you like where things are going, consider subscribing and maybe even supporting me on Ko-fi. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.